He placed Monica's fingers on the keyboard and put a phone up to her ear. She came alive, her head bent sideways to cradle the phone and her fingers tensed to the keyboard tray. She can type whatever I dictate, said Andy. Also, she can make simple phone calls, like ordering a pizza or something. We like to play secretary. He brushed lank hair out of her eyes. Hello, Andy, said the Monica doll. Is there anything I can do for you? I'm always very respectful of this doll, said Andy, ignoring her. But let's move on, please. We shut the door on Andy's diorama, devoted to his past. That was when I realized that this tour wasn't about Andy showing off his prowess at sculpting and robotics. This was something else. He was taking us on a tour of his darkest desires. This was secret mail information he was sharing. This could only lead to trouble. I took Becca aside and whispered in her ear. Why don't you wait upstairs for me? I know this isn't your kind of thing. But she shook her head and her lips were tight. It wasn't going to be that easy. So does every man wish he had the helpless body of his ex-girlfriend lying around to abuse? She asked me loudly. Is this a common fantasy? I stammered. No, insisted Andy. Monica was special. Becca stared at me, judging me, but I only shrugged. She opened the next door herself. This room was decorated like a cheap motel off some New Jersey turnpike, complete with pink fluorescent lights that flashed in a fabricated dirty window covered by yellow Venetian blinds. There were 2 twin beds, a braided rug, and a particle board dresser with a glass ashtray on it. Sitting in a stale black recliner was a woman in a pink party dress with a glass of liquor resting in the palm of her hand. I met her at a party, said Andy, lying down in one of the twin beds. I never got her name, but I call her Scheherazade. She told me this amazing story about the time she slept with her junior high gym coach, and then I was in love with her for a month. It was hard to build a doll that matched her specifications exactly, but luckily she had a lot of pictures of herself online, so I was able to create a match. I programmed her voice apparatus to tell stories. I like to lay in one bed while she lays in the other. She reads me whatever I upload into her. She reads me the newspaper, novels, blogs, even work memos. She has 3 usable holes, including her mouth. If I'm using her mouth, she can't tell stories anymore and just makes sucking sounds, which I think is a nice touch. That is fucking horrible, said Becca. You know what Hemingway said about heaven and hell, said Andy. Heaven is 2 mansions right next to one another. In one mansion are your wife and your children, and you have a normal, perfect family together. The other mansion has 7 floors, and on each floor is a different mistress. All these women, including your wife, are nubile and willing, aching to be serviced at least once a day. Hell is the same thing, except you're hungover. I breathed deep to keep from laughing. I never read Hemingway before Scheherazade read him to me, said Andy. But surely there's no better way to experience Hemingway than to hear him from the lips of a sex robot that you built yourself while your semen slowly dries inside her sensual, 3-textured, vacuum-powered robot mouth. How do you clean them, Becca asked, if you don't mind my asking. Do you pay someone? Andy looked horrified. Oh no, said Andy. I clean them myself once a week, on Sundays. It's part of the responsibility. I would be a monster if I didn't clean them. Next door, please, I said quietly. Andy got up from the bed and shut the door on Scheherazade. He paused before opening the next door, leaning up against it and smiling. The next 2 rooms are a little strange, said Andy. I don't want you to think less of me for making them. I built these next 2 dolls because, well, I couldn't get them out of my head. I had to know what they would be like. I don't use them very often, just on special occasions. Show us already, Batman, said Becca. Andy opened the next door. There was bright orange carpet on the walls. Furniture made from polished tree stumps. A big, heart-shaped bed. Lying, 3 television sets. Lying in the center of the heart-shaped bed was a man in sequin jumpsuit and sunglasses. Shiny black hair, mutton chops. He was slightly overweight, but he still looked hardy and full of life, like a big, sensual truck driver. I can make him as sweaty as I want, said Andy, and he sings. Andy walked over to Elvis and slid a hand behind his neck. The Elvis sex robot began to sing Love Me Tender. I'm not gay, said Andy, staring at me. But sometimes it's cool to go down on Elvis while he sings Love Me Tender. Okay, Andy, I said quietly. Becca was no longer furious. Now she was kind of stupefied. Is this a common fantasy for all men? Asked Becca. No, I said. Come on, said Andy. Don't be a prude. I'm sure you're gay for somebody out there. There's some special fellow you wouldn't mind bumming when nobody's looking. No one, I said. Just tell us, said Becca exasperately. If you were going to build a sex robot of a dude that you could fuck and nobody would know, then who would it be? I thought about it. Andy was sharing so much. I had to share too. Joseph Stalin, I said. Andy stroked his chin while Becca's pupils shrank to the size of decimal points. Andy opened the next door. He opened the next door and it was a hollow cave with a vaulted ceiling and stained glass windows. There was a mound of treasure in the center of the room, a heap of gold bars, precious gems, and comic books. And guarding the treasure was a pearly pale dragon the size of a motorcycle with black teeth like daggers and glossy evil eyes. I have always wanted to fuck a dragon, said Andy. I think this is a common fantasy for strong people. Becca and I looked at one another. Andy crept into the room very slowly. Do not come in here, said Andy. The dragon is guarding real treasure, and she really breathes fire. Her belly is loaded with propane. Don't worry, she wouldn't set the building on fire if she were to go off. The room is completely encased in sheet steel, and anyone trapped in here would merely be roasted alive. My dragon is like having a wall safe. I don't trust banks very much, not these days. Andy gently stroked the top of the dragon's head. She has a little asshole you can use and a scaly vagina that is so thick and so strange you can fit your whole head inside. I can make her belch little fireballs if I come hard enough. That's really neat, Andy, I said, trying to stay as far away from the door's threshold as possible. It's cool to fuck something that could kill you. Andy crept out of the room and gently shut the door behind him. Love Me Tinder continued to play from the Elvis room. Why Joseph Stalin, asked Becca. Probably for the same reason that Andy likes fucking a dragon, I said. Ignoring us, Andy walked to the next door and leaned against it. I can't even show you the next room, said Andy. I never go in there myself. I built it so that I would never have to go in there. I'll just tell you what is inside. Inside this room is a replica of the tiny apartment where I grew up. And there's a doll lying on a sagging gray couch, perpetually watching reruns of old black and white movies in sweatpants and a kitten t-shirt. The doll is a simulacrum of my very own mother. You can look if you want, but it's the kind of thing that might make me want to tear out my own eyes. If I hadn't built the room, though, I would have obsessed about it. And my collection is all about dealing with obsession. Right, I said. Do you want to see? Asked Andy, grinning. While you look, I will curl up in the corner and hide from my shame, shrieking and clawing at my face. I don't mind. No, I said. I will take your word for it. Do you believe me that I never go in there? Yes, I believe you, I said. We moved to the next door. These last two rooms are my meat and potatoes, said Andy. I looked at Andy and sighed. I turned the doorknob on the next door with the feeling of cold dread. This room was covered from floor to ceiling in televisions. Each one was showing a different kind of hardcore pornography. All derivations of basic shit. You know, blacks on blondes, dirty housewives, trannies, teenagers, old women, pregnant twins, the basics. In the center of the room, displayed on a velvet dais, was a globe the size of a large beach ball that was puckered with strange furry slits and studded with several different kinds of glistening protuberances. I call this my fuck egg, said Andy, picking up the puckered ball. It has a little bit of everything, every kind of warm, soft hole that I can think of, all different sizes, elasticities, moistures, textures, and depths. I don't have to use my imagination at all when I'm using my fuck egg. I can match my masturbation experience to whatever piece of pornography is thrilling me at a given moment. Here, take a look. Andy tossed me the fuck egg and I caught it and held it by two long, knobby phalluses that were dangling from the fuck egg's equator. I held it up so that Becca could inspect it, but she turned away, burying her face in her hands. There are many exotic portals in my fuck egg, said Andy. Look to the left of those two fuzzy assholes by your thumb. No! Look right beside the stumpy yellow cucumber drill. Check out that plump, rosy slash beneath the tuft of gray hair. Put your finger inside. That's an exact replica of the Queen of England's junk. Don't ask me how I got it. Ever wonder what it feels like to be inside a queen? Not until now, I said, turning Andy's fuck egg over and over in my hands and examining all the strange gaps, craters, valleys, and ridges. My fuck egg is ball-shaped, so I can put it on the ground and use it hands-free, said Andy. I can even sit on it if I want, use one of the wands on myself. Fascinating, I said. I put the fuck egg on the ground and then punted it to Andy. He leaped to catch it, but he missed, and the fuck egg bounced off one of his big screen televisions and landed in the corner. Clean up is a cinch, Becca, said Andy. I know you're interested in that. Semen is collected in a vacuum pouch in the center of the egg. I change it once a month like changing a water filter. Becca left the room with a whimpering noise. She lay down on one of Andy's couches and curled into the fetal position. I tried to follow her, but Andy put his hand on my shoulder and led me to the next room. This last room is the complement to my fuck egg, said Andy. They go hand in hand. Every hole must have a face. He opened the door and pushed me inside. I was getting dizzy. In this room, the walls were lined with cubby holes like an automat or mail sorting room. Each cubby was big enough for a basketball, and each cubby was filled with a severed female head. In the center of the room was a four-poster princess bed covered in rose petals and saffron blossoms, where a headless woman was splayed out like a cat in heat, up on all fours.